The most dangerous mistake in elite-level basketball isn't bad shooting, poor defense, or even lack of talent, it's hesitation born from politics. And that's exactly the silent trap Team USA fell into. When a roster is stacked with generational names, coaches often try to balance everything, keep veterans comfortable, satisfy rising stars, and avoid controversy, but in doing so, they accidentally cripple greatness. That's what happened with Caitlin Clark. The world didn't just want to see her start, they demanded it. And when her name was finally called, it felt like the universe corrected itself. The arena erupted, the energy shifted, and expectations skyrocketed. But what followed wasn't dominance, it was dysfunction disguised as structure. Instead of unleashing Clark as the offensive engine, they trapped her in a lineup that contradicted everything she does best. A high-speed, transition-dominating, chaos-creating point guard was forced into an off-ball role while the offense slowed to a crawl under traditional control. It was like strapping a rocket to the ground and asking it to taxi instead of fly. The spacing felt suffocated, the rhythm was mechanical, and while the team still produced, because talent alone can overpower weaker opponents, it lacked fear, it lacked pressure, it lacked that suffocating inevitability that defines true dominance. Clark wasn't bad, far from it, but she was being used at a fraction of her potential, and every possession felt like a missed opportunity to witness something historic. Then everything changed. The fourth quarter didn't just shift momentum, it exposed the truth. The moment the constraints were removed, the moment the hierarchy loosened its grip, the game transformed into something unrecognizable. Clark took full control at the point, the tempo exploded, and suddenly the offense wasn't just effective, it was devastating. Every possession carried intent, speed, and surgical precision. The defense couldn't breathe. Couldn't reset, couldn't even think. What we witnessed wasn't just a better lineup, it was the blueprint of what Team USA is supposed to be. And at the center of that transformation was Caitlin Clark operating exactly where she belongs, with the ball in her hands, dictating everything. What followed was not just skill, but evolution. Every outdated criticism about her game got dismantled in real time. Defenders tried pressing up to take away the three, she punished them with elite-level jail mechanics, trapping them behind her hip before creating instant separation with a violent sidestep into a flawless mid-range jumper. That's not a weakness, that's a weapon. And when defenses adjusted, thinking they could contain her inside the arc, she reminded them of her true gravity, pulling up from distances that break defensive schemes entirely. Not just deep threes, momentum-shattering missiles that force defenders to pick her up the second she crosses half-court. And that's where the real destruction begins. Because the moment you stretch a defense that far, everything collapses. Driving lanes open like highways, rotations break down, and teammates become lethal. That's where the chemistry with Paige Bueckers becomes terrifying. This isn't just two stars sharing the court, this is two elite basketball minds operating on instinct, manipulating defenders like chess pieces. No wasted movement, no forced plays, just pure, synchronized brilliance. Clark bends the defense with her eyes, her pace, her gravity, and Bueckers slices through the gaps at the exact right moment. Backdoor cuts, transition reads, perfectly timed passes, it's not just offense, it's orchestration. And in transition, it becomes unstoppable. Clark doesn't walk the ball up, she detonates into space, forcing panic, forcing mistakes, forcing defenses into impossible decisions. Collapse on her, and shooters are wide open. Stay home, and she's at the rim. There is no correct answer. That's what makes her different. That's what makes this version of Team USA inevitable. The fourth quarter wasn't just a strong finish, it was a warning. A glimpse into what happens when you stop compromising and start committing to greatness. Because the truth is simple, when Caitlin Clark is fully unleashed, she doesn't just elevate the team, she transforms it into something the rest of the world simply cannot solve. But what makes this situation even more intense, almost uncomfortable for traditional systems, is that this isn't just about one player shining, it's about a complete shift in power dynamics on the floor. When Caitlin Clark fully controls the tempo, the entire identity of the team mutates into something faster, sharper, and far more ruthless. This is no longer a system built on hierarchy or seniority, it's built on impact, on pressure, on relentless execution. Every second she has the ball, the defense is under psychological attack. They're not just reacting, they're anticipating, overthinking, hesitating, and that's where the damage multiplies. Because hesitation at this level is death. And when you pair that with a player like Paige Bueckers, who reads the game like a master strategist, you create a dual-engine offense that doesn't just score, it dismantles. Bueckers doesn't need the spotlight to dominate, she thrives in the chaos Clark creates. She cuts at the perfect second, relocates with purpose, and punishes every defensive misstep with surgical precision. Together, they don't just run plays, they predict outcomes before they happen. That's why the fourth quarter explosion felt so different. It wasn't random. It wasn't luck. It was inevitable. The moment you remove restrictions from players who think 2 steps ahead of everyone else, the game stops being competitive and starts becoming controlled destruction. And that's exactly what unfolded, possession after possession of calculated, relentless pressure that New Zealand simply had no answer for. Now here's the reality that the coaching staff can no longer ignore. This isn't an experiment anymore, it's a revelation. You've seen the ceiling. You've seen the speed, the spacing, the fear it creates in the opposition. So the question isn't whether this works, the question is why you would ever go back. Because every second spent returning to slower, politically balanced lineups is a step away from dominance. Teams like Spain and Australia aren't going to be overwhelmed by talent alone, they're disciplined, physical, and tactically ruthless. And if you give them a predictable, slowed-down offense, they will exploit it. But if you unleash Clark from the opening possession, if you let her dictate the rhythm from start to finish, you force those teams out of their comfort zone immediately. You turn structured defenses into scrambling chaos. You dictate terms instead of reacting. That's the difference between winning and dominating. And right now, Team USA is standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to safe, controlled, traditional basketball, the kind that wins games but invites resistance. The other path leads to something far more dangerous, an unrelenting, high-octane system built around the most explosive offensive engine in the game today. The fourth quarter already gave the answer. The only thing left is whether the coaching staff is bold enough to accept it. And if there was still any doubt lingering after that fourth quarter takeover, it should have been completely erased by the numbers, the film, and the undeniable eye test all aligning at once. Because what Caitlin Clark is doing in this tournament isn't just impressive, it's historically efficient, brutally consistent, and strategically overwhelming. Leading the entire field in both scoring and playmaking isn't something that happens by accident, especially on a roster filled with elite talent. That's not stat padding, that's control. That's influence. That's a player bending the entire flow of the game to her will without forcing anything. Every possession she touches becomes more dangerous, more unpredictable, more explosive. And what makes it even more terrifying is how effortlessly she adapts. Take away the 3, she punishes you inside the arc, collapse the paint, she fires precision passes that turn role players into guaranteed buckets. Try to slow her down, and she accelerates even harder, dragging the entire game into a tempo opponents physically and mentally cannot sustain. This isn't just offensive production, it's offensive manipulation at the highest level. Defenses aren't just failing, they're being solved. And once a player reaches that level, where every defensive adjustment becomes a weakness instead of a solution, you're no longer dealing with a star, you're dealing with an unsolvable equation. That's the stage she's entering right now, and the rest of the world is starting to feel it in real time.